Welcome to the Zero Trust Journey podcast, created by cybersecurity practitioners for those walking the same path. We share real stories, hard lessons, and hard-won victories from the field, so you can sidestep the pitfalls and deliver the wins. Grab your coffee, tune out the buzzwords, and let's get into the real story, right here on the Zero Trust Journey podcast.
Welcome back to the Zero Trust Journey podcast, where we talk about zero trust and cybersecurity. Without the fluff, without the marketing hype, we get straight to the point. Today, I'm joined by Alex Sharpe, a cybersecurity governance and digital transformation veteran with more than 30 years of experience. Alex started his career at the NSA, built practices at Booz Allen and KPMG, co-founded firms with successful exits. Congratulations. And has worked with clients in 30 different countries. In the Zero Trust community, Alex co-chairs 2 Cloud Security Alliance working groups, authored the Zero Trust Guiding Principles, and co-authored The Business Value of Zero Trust. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Victor.
Alex, let's jump right into it. I want to talk about adoption gaps, because this is a common theme we hear when it comes to Zero Trust. So Gartner found that while most organizations track Zero Trust metrics, the strategies only cover half or less of their environments. Why do so many organizations stop at partial adoption instead of making Zero Trust an enterprise-wide strategy?
Well, first of all, I'd have to see the Gartner data to understand it. So pushing that aside and answering the general question, I think a lot of times there's a couple things going on here. First and foremost, when an organization is doing anything of any size and any importance, it's not unusual to start with some low-hanging fruit or to choose a subset, focus on that, kind of get it right, get the adoption flowing, work out the kinks, and then expand. So I am not aware of any organization that is deliberately saying, we're only going to do this. Right? It's usually part of a strategy. Now, with that said, I think there's another factor here. And one of them is some very well-intentioned look at Zero Trust as not an enterprise effort. So they kind of set the organization down a path of doing collections of use cases.
Sure.
Instead of a strategy. That, they tend to be well-intentioned, but they kind of end up like very fragmented, kind of missing the point. And if you think about it, where we've come from a cybersecurity perspective, that's kind of the culture that's been built in a lot of ways, right? In a lot of organizations, they're playing whack-a-mole. So instead of looking at Zero Trust as a strategic initiative across the enterprise, they're looking at all these little pockets, usually based on use cases. So I think there's 2 parts there. 2 parts to your question that could answer the percentage.
Yeah.
The one is their strategy may be a phased approach over time, which is very, very common. I see that all the time. And then the other could be that, the folks driving the effort are taking it from the bottoms up, kind of playing whack-a-mole, dealing with use cases instead of a strategic initiative.
Fair point. And Alex, have you seen where instead of looking at Zero Trust as a holistic strategy, instead we're looking at let's do Zero Trust access only, or let's do Zero Trust network access only, or let's do, instead of taking all the pillars and all the principles, people are just taking one side of it and that's saying, this is my Zero Trust strategy, and just kind of renaming it for their organizations. Have you seen something like that? Or you think that, again, is something what you just answered as a phased approach?
Oh, thank you for all the softballs you're throwing right at the start of this, right? So I'm glad you're starting with all the easy questions. There's a couple pieces to that. One of the things you mentioned was you kind of alluded to the product piece, which is a different issue in itself, right? One of the things that's happened is because Zero Trust has become such a important thing, and we're seeing it again with things like AI, a lot of vendors went out and sold themselves as a Zero Trust solution. So be very product-based, which causes some of the issues you're talking about, right? They go, oh, you want to do Zero Trust, buy my product. And it causes those problems. And the reality is when you look at what zero trust is really about, depending on which maturity model, you're going to get a handful of different pillars. And some of those pillars are more important to you than others, right? So it's not uncommon for a highly data-driven organization to sit back and say, you know what, let me start with the data side, my asset side, because that's where I'm weakest. Where other organizations are sitting back and saying, you know what, if we do this identity management thing across the entire enterprise, we're going to raise our cyber hygiene the fastest. So
Really.
some of it is about the pillars. Now, a lot of it is about misunderstanding, because when you look at what's going on in zero trust, there's two points. There's identity and access management, and then there's segmentation.
Mm-hmm.
The identity and access management is really all the basic blocking and tackling that are sitting in the standards and the control frameworks that we talk about, until fairly recently haven't gotten all the love they should have, right? Concept of least privileges,
And what do you think that's okay? Sorry to interrupt you, Alex. What do you think they haven't gotten the attention that they deserve, even though there's a decent guidance out there, right? I mean, the guiding principles you contributed is say zero trust is a strategy, not a product, where you talk about identity and microsegmentation as well to contain that blast radius. Why do you think that's the case? Like people are not grasping on that?
I think there's a lot of parts to that, but I don't know if there's one root problem. I do think a lot of it is culture. So we have a lot of cyber professionals who, kind of got dumped into the organization and they've kind of picked it up as it went. I was classically trained in the discipline and because of where I started and where I've been in the career. So it's a little different. And it provides you a different set of tools and a different way of looking at things. Some people grow up in a compliance-aware culture. While they do what's required for compliance, understanding that compliance is table stakes. That's the bare minimum.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a lot of pieces here. There's also two other cultural aspects that may play into this. One is if you look at the history of cyber, we've basically treated it as a technology problem. So we threw technologists at it. We had them buy a product and implement product, and we kind of treated it as a technology thing, right? A lot of what you're doing around identity and access management is you're really looking at how do you set the privileges, how do you monitor them, how do you maintain them to provide the correct protection for an asset. None of that has to do with technology. So I do think part of what plays into here is that there's a cultural mind shift.
Sure. But isn't that really hard in a way for a company to first itemize and then keep track of it? A simple example we give: if I'm part of this department and if I got promoted or demoted, I shift the department, my access should be changed as well, not should remain the similar, or I shouldn't get more access for that matter. But that again, it requires the organizational maturity, but it does also come with a little bit of overhead as well. Wouldn't you think that factors into a lot of IAM challenges and over provisioning the access?
Okay, so let me give you two thoughts on that. First of all, companies and organizations do hard things every day, right? It's just the nature of the care and feeding of their business, and it's there. And I'll give you a prime example. 2000-ish, when Sarbanes-Oxley came out, that was the same complaint. Oh, this is too much work. Oh, this is so hard. Okay, great. Do it or we're going to fine you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Suddenly,
We don't do it now.
they suddenly figured out how to do it. I've often joked with some of my friends. We'll talk about these folks are reluctant to do this, reluctant to do that. I don't know. Said, okay, let's hit them with ransomware. You get hit with a ransomware attack, and all of a sudden they're willing to find a way to do this stuff that was too hard.
Sure thing. Yeah, the motivation, the influence, it just comes instantly as soon as there's enforcement. So, are we lacking enforcement in zero trust? So, if let's say there's a body who would fine you if you don't enforce zero trust strategy or don't have mature IAM system or don't microsegment your networks and segments for that matter, do you think that would really motivate people to really mature their zero trust strategy?
Well, there was two things in there. So segmentation is usually more aligned with the maturity of the organization. The access control pieces are in all the standards.
Sure.
E3, 800, 171, 27,001. I mean, we FFIEC, which was decommissioned last month. I mean, we can walk through them. The essentials of zero trust are in every one of them, right? Indirectly, there's an enforcement mechanism.
Sure.
Um, It's not necessarily called out, thou shalt do zero trust. The only organization that has that is really the Department of Defense, the U.S. Department of Defense, because well, technically all federal agencies do, because in Executive Order 140128, it specifically says you'll have a zero trust strategy, and they all have these documents. So it's kind of there.
Sure.
On the commercial side, the elements are woven in and not kind of bundled under zero trust. It's
Yeah.
it's really a concept.
But let me ask you this.
Here's a concept for an analogy. It's like saying you're a good driver. Nobody goes out and says, "Are you a good driver?" No, they check mark the qualities of being a good driver, but they don't necessarily you're a good driver.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Makes sense. And if you're not a good driver, if you crash into something, then you get fined or maybe revoked your license. So let me ask you in the flip side. So you said the essentials of the zero trust are woven into some of these compliance and regulations. What if a company does not have to adhere by any of these compliance or regulations? Does that mean there's no real motivation for them to consider zero trust?
Well, there's two sides to that. I'm sure somebody somewhere is requiring them to do something, right? The likelihood in this day and age of not having somebody providing some sort of oversight over you is pretty thin. Even if you're a new startup, your investors want to know that you're protecting their investment,
Totally.
right? So
Customers want to know how you're protecting their data, all of that.
yeah. So there's always something. Then there's also the very basic standard of care that we all have as a business. Remember, our number one priority as business owners is to act like an owner, right? We have a duty of care of managing that business and protecting that business. We have agreements with our customers, whether they're explicit or not, to protect their information and protect their transactions. We have agreements with every vendor, every third party we deal with, that we have to behave responsibly. If anybody's interested, this is actually a form of counterparty risk, which is most commonly known in the financial services sector, but it's counterparty risk, right? You have a duty to protect the information and the interaction with somebody else, and they're going to rate you on it, right? So
That's insightful.
Yeah, nobody wants to do business with somebody that's going to hurt them.
Right. Totally. Totally. Let's double click on that one actually. Resilience for financial services. You lead the CSA group on resilience in financial services. How should organizations measure resilience in the context of zero trust beyond just compliance checkboxes?
Okay, excellent question. We're actually writing that section now of the document, which is interesting because everybody's coming at it in a different phase.
Sure.
If you deal with anything about scorecards or metrics or measurement, you will quickly learn two things. One is it's highly dependent on where you are in your growth, right? That's number one. Number two is it's highly tuned to your business, or if you like the military, your mission, right? So a metric that is perfect for me may do absolutely nothing for somebody else.
Makes sense.
So in principle, let's talk about what resilience is. Resilience is the ability to remain viable amidst adversity. and to be better for it. The last part kind of screws with people. To be better for it is really saying continuous improvement. So incidents, near misses are wonderful opportunities to improve the cyber hygiene and the resilience of your organization. The basic definition is all about remaining viable. So if you look at what zero trust is, it really hits both sides of the risk equation, likelihood and impact. The identity and access management side deals directly with likelihood. If you have the right kind of access controls and you're the right kind of suspicious when somebody presents a claimed identity, you are really reducing the likelihood that anything bad's going to happen. Now, you have to assume bad things will happen because that's the nature of the world we live in, but it reduces the likelihood to a very low frequency. And then we have the segmentation piece, which is really around controlling the blast radius. That's the impact piece. So through things like segmentation, and that can live anywhere in the OSI stack, right? A lot of people think, oh, I need to recategorize my network. Oh, I got to read. No, you don't. No, you don't. You can do segmentation at an application level. You can do it electronically at data link level. You can do it anywhere in the stack. But the whole idea is to reduce the blast radius. So when something happens, less impact. Less impact means you recover, you identify faster, you recover quicker. So you're better off for the situation.
Yep, makes sense.
First
You
of
had
all,
me at OSI, by the way. It's been a while since I heard OSI model.
it's not talked about as much as it used to be, but it comes up when it
Totally makes sense. Yeah, no, I'm trained as network engineer, so OSI TCP/IP model is what I used to talk about a lot. But since you mentioned OSI, it's been a while I heard of that.
then you get it. You get it.
Totally.
So here's an example. It's perfect. Bad things happen when people click the wrong link.
Yes.
Simple, very, very simple. People aren't going to stop clicking anytime soon. So we have to assume with the volume of bad links coming around, somebody's going to click something.
Something bad is going to happen, for sure.
It will happen. All right. We assume a breach. Okay. Statistically, unfettered, no segmentation, no control. Every time somebody clicks a bad link, they on average infect 20 machines.
Wow.
You think about that within 4 hops, no matter how large your organization is, without limiting that blast radius, you've taken out an entire enterprise. I know a company of 5,000 people, of numbers, that was infected globally because they had no segmentation.
So they're just hopping between the computers and just lateral movement is going on
Before
CCS
any
drive.
alarms went off.
Yeah.
The entire enterprise was impacted. I don't think every machine was hit, but servers, data, you pick it. Things were offline. They were combat ineffective. They weren't able to operate. And that was before any of the alerts came up because it happened that quick. Remember, we're talking about spreads that happen at machine speeds, not human speeds.
Totally.
That's why we do segmentation.
100%. 100%. Alex, as we are wrapping up, let's talk about some lessons from your experience. You've seen Zero Trust through many lenses, NSA, consulting, M&A. What's one thing or one lesson from that journey you think every security leader like CISO, even CIO should remember as they start their Zero Trust program and strategy?
Well, the short answer for that is go to the Cloud Security Alliance website, download the guiding principles document because that's why it was written. It was written specifically because of that kind of request, where it maps out all the broad strokes, the philosophy, what to do, what to think about. So download that. But I'd say with that said, basically start with your access control. Just get that right. Concept of least privilege, segregation of duties is a little more work. Start with highly valued assets like your system administrators, your security administrators. We've seen major social engineering attacks on help desk and marketing Everybody should have gone Y marketing. We'll get there in a second. But the help desks have been victims of social engineering attacks. We saw about the casinos. Scattered Spider has been doing a great job in this area. Kudos that, you know, they've really mastered that field, which is a great thing it's a great opportunity for us to learn how to protect ourselves. But engineer your processes in the help desk to prevent those kind of issues. Marketing is getting hit. We've seen a massive increase in marketing getting hit. Why? Well, they've got future plans. They got insight to where the organization is going. So if a malicious actor can get into the marketing folks, get ahead of these future plans, malicious actor calls up and says, how much is it worth not to release your strategy to your competitors?
Yeah.
Right?
A lot. Yeah.
Finance. Finance is another one, right? Why is finance targeted? Same reason people break in the banks. That's where the money is. Start with these folks, get your access control in place. That's the first place to always start. And there's lots of resources out there.
Excellent. Alex, thank you so much for cutting through the noise with us today and really bringing the Zero Trust, what it's really about, from guiding principles to resilience, business value, and you covered a lot.
I was just going to say thank you. I really appreciate your questions. You got to the heart of the matter very quickly. That's a lot more fun. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. And for listeners, check out the Zero Trust guiding principles and business value of Zero Trust from CSA. Both must reads for everyone and anyone serious about this journey. This has been Zero Trust Journey. Stay sharp, stay curious, and remember, this is a vulnerability in digital space. Zero Trust is the strategy. Once again, Alex, thanks so much.
Thank you.
That's a wrap on this Zero Trust journey. Now it's your turn. Step into the spotlight, share your story, and be part of the journey. Subscribe to Zero Trust Journey on LinkedIn for the latest news, events, and giveaways. Until next time.